Welcome to the Research Culture Uncovered podcast, where in every episode we explore what is research culture and what should it be. You'll hear thoughts and opinions from a range of contributors to help you change research culture into what you want it to be.
Hi, this is Jed Hall, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm an academic development consultant at the University of Leeds. Today's episode of our Research Culture Uncovered podcast is actually a bonus episode, but it still has close links to my season's focus on the effects of research impact. In this bonus episode, I'm delighted to be talking to Dr. Lorna Daniels and Dr. Shilpa Nagarajan. Shilpa and Lorna are co-hosts of the Research Co-Culture podcast, which looks at how researchers from any sector can work together more effectively. They are both industry-sponsored postdoctoral research fellows at Oxford University, and I've invited them along to talk more about how their fellowship programme works, the role of their industry sponsor in benefiting the research, and potentially increasing the chance of the research having tangible impact. And of course, to tell you lots about their podcast. But before we dive into the interview proper, I always like to get to understand people a bit more. So you all know that I fall off bikes and that I eat pies. So which one of you wants to go first? Shilpa, can I come to you and just kind of say,
Sure, yeah.
What do your friends know about you that isn't your passion for research?
Okay. I guess they probably know that I've lived in a lot of countries and I love traveling and doing anything related to exploring cultures. So I cook a lot. I like to cook recipes from different cultures. That's kind of my hobby/passion. I know it's not as defined as what other people would call a hobby, but it's definitely something I get a bit more nerdy about outside of research.
Cool. I'll have to see if I can find some interesting pie recipes from you. And Lorna, what about you? What do your friends know about you that you'd like to tell us?
Yeah, I think Shilpa can I'm definitely going to vouch for Shilpa being my most international friend, so that's definitely true. But yeah, I'd say outside of the lab, I'm quite active. I do a lot of CrossFit, which for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's basically a combination of weightlifting, running, conditioning, some bits of gymnastics. So basically just imagine competitive adult PE is what most people refer to it as. So, but I also love getting outside and just kind of lots of running and kind of trail running and hiking. And then the other part is that fuels all of this is my extreme consumption of peanut butter. So I think anyone that knows me knows that I love peanut butter. And
Very true.
Hopefully, Shilpa can definitely confirm this. So that's pretty much me. Sport and peanut butter is what makes me up.
Smooth or
Honestly,
crunchy?
Definitely crunchy. I mean, I will accept smooth if someone wants to give me peanut butter. If any peanut butter people out there want to sponsor our podcast, that'd be amazing. But yeah, definitely crunchy.
Brilliant. That's the right answer from my perspective. You know, if it still looks like peanut butter, it still looks like peanuts, crushed up, smothered on toast. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So yeah, that's a pity because actually, as you're both kind of food orientated and also outdoors, we could just flip to that. Or should we carry on? Should we carry on talking about research? I guess we should, or else we'd be misselling what our podcast is all about in terms of research culture. But interestingly, I asked you along to kind of find out a bit more about your fellowship scheme. So I wonder if you could describe that to the listeners and how you got into it and how you're finding it.
Yeah. Do you want to go, Shilpa?
Yeah, sure. So the university actually has quite a number of industry fellowship programs for postdocs. And so the one that we're on is a 3-year fellowship program, particularly geared towards people that just finished their PhD recently. I think within 4 years. I know when we did it, it was within 2 years of finishing. And you're based in an academic lab with an academic supervisor. And you also get an industry mentor that helps you with the project that you're with. But you can also do extra things with your industry company, and they might invite you to do other things as well. But you do have one main project that is primarily based at the university, but you can get input from the company as well.
Brilliant. So you get access to brains on both sides of the academia, non-academia boundary.
Yeah, and resources too. You can do your experiments there as well, which is fantastic. But there is no like set thing that you do with the company versus your academic lab.
Sure. Now, fellowships are normally about boosting career or establishing yourselves as research leaders. So what are both of your aspirations? I'll come to Lorna first, as Shilpa took the first question.
Yeah, so you've actually caught Shilpa and I a kind of really interesting part in our journeys, I guess, because I mean, Shilpa's just finished a fellowship, so she can tell you all about her new career opportunity when it comes to hair. And I'm about to finish my fellowship in about 8 weeks. So we've been on our own journeys over the past 6 months of trying to work out what our next steps are. And really the kind of the term they use with this fellowship program is to identify the next leaders in the kind of metabolic and diabetic fields. And hopefully Shilpa and I will be there one day. But yeah, so I'm finishing up very soon, and I've actually got a new position that I'll be starting in the government, which is not something I ever thought I'd be interested in, but it just, something came up and I was like, that sounds great. So it's a position as a senior policy advisor in the Government Office for Science, within the research and development team that's all to do with like strategy and capability. So it's basically transitioning from the lab and very much moving into the big picture thinking on the research landscape, I guess thinking of research impact. So I'm super excited about that, and really looking forward to taking a deep dive into science policy and learning lots of new things. And definitely the industry fellowship massively helped me with the application process. And I think being able to engage with industry over the past few years has gave me that perspective outside of the academic environment, and it really opens up my eyes to the more strategic type of research and just out of that small niche lab environment that we're in a day-to-day basis. So so that's kind of my next steps.
Congratulations on that. I'll have to get your new email when you have that. Because we colleagues of mine, policy leads, really want to make connections with it's interesting. Policymakers is the wrong terminology, actually, because it's really the ministerial level who are the makers of policy, and civil servants who advise on how to implement it. So it'd be really interesting to kind of keep in touch with you as you go forward in that. Yeah, brilliant. So Shilpa, tell us about your next exciting step.
Yeah, it's super interesting because we've actually had very similar fellowship experiences, and where we've ended up is completely different. So I have a role as a senior scientist in a pharmaceutical company, which is kind of where I thought I'd end up, but it's actually not in my field of research, which is diabetes and fatty liver disease, and that is not what I expected at all. But I just felt like after the fellowship program, I really just wanted to diversify and upskill in a really fast way. And the great thing about industry, which I found from listening to other people in industry and their own career journeys, is that, I mean, it's a job, right? And you get to try new things as you try new jobs. In academia, we kind of get focused on the whole career story, the narrative that you had this passion when you were 15 and you've just hyper focused and you've just gone more and more niche over 3-4 decades, and it's really hard to pivot. And what I learned by kind of increasing my network is that it's a job. You get to try new things. You get to try a new job in a new area with a new skill. And then if you want to learn something else, go somewhere else. And that was really exciting. That's what I wanted as my next step.
Yeah, it's great to hear you seeing your career as an experiment and just kind of like there isn't such a thing as a failure. I mean,
Yeah.
there's jobs I've taken that have turned out to be not what I wanted, and you just kind of move on. But
Yeah.
great to hear that. And I love the narrowing down, because that for me was always one of the frustrations of academic research, in that there was kind of almost that, as you said, that expectation of narrowing, where actually, you know, people like to change and like to explore
Yeah.
different things. And if we
I
really
want to
truly
broaden.
are curiosity led, we shouldn't be
Yeah,
limited by where we ask questions. You know, that's
absolutely.
yeah, fascinating. Well, really, really good luck with both of those. And yeah, okay, I bet there'll be lots of people trying to hang on to you in terms of trying to establish impact from different types of research in that pharmaceutical company as well. Um, so thanks a lot for that. And next, I kind of really wanted to kind of focus on you both coming to, as you said, the end of your fellowships. So are you able to describe the research you were undertaking and what kind of impact you hoped would emerge from it?
Yeah, I can go first. So I think the research I've been doing during my fellowship is that it's actually a bit different to what I did my PhD and kind of first postdoc in, which was all to do with the heart. But my time in Oxford, I've been very focused on the liver. So I've actually been looking at circadian liver metabolic biology. So this basically refers to liver metabolic processes that follow a daily rhythm or a cycle known as a circadian rhythm, which some people may have heard that term. But really the kind of big picture and the impact and why we're interested in this is because we know that disruptions to circadian rhythms through things such as irregular sleep patterns, shift work, jet lag, these can all ultimately result in kind of metabolic disease. So really where the liver fits in with this is that our liver's very much involved in kind of storing nutrients during the day, and then during the evening it's detoxifying and basically allowing our body to utilize energy stores such as glycogen to keep our blood glucose levels stable. So you can imagine that if you're not allowing your liver to go through these nice rhythmic patterns, so if let's just say, for example, you're eating at the wrong time of day, you're not allowing your liver to go through that fasted period where it can repair, that can ultimately result in really help contribute to metabolic disease, weight gain and disease such as type 2 diabetes. So really what I kind of do on a day-to-day basis is my project is involved in researching a variety of genes that we know are related to this process and looking at how manipulating these genes with drugs can ultimately have beneficial effects on liver metabolic health. So yeah, so that's kind of the deep dive into it. But really, one of the journeys I've been on myself recently actually is, and this is kind of what made me start to think a bit more about impact, is that I was actually approached by a company sometime last year to do some talks with them on sleep for effective leadership. And you know, again, my research project's not super related to sleep, but that is the big picture. If we sleep better, our metabolic health is better, and that's all linked with our liver. So I very much had to take myself out of the detail and, you know, pitch at a different level, and that's been a really interesting journey to go on to try and do some of that public engagement, which I think is really sometimes where you can feel immediate impact. Yeah,
it's interesting in terms of that narrowing that we were talking about, and somebody you asking a question that's kind of may feel tangential or certainly different, a different take on that. So yeah, thanks a lot for giving that a good explore and actually trying that, because some people would feel like that's something I can say no to because it's kind of not grounded right in the center of where my expertise is.
Yeah, I think and they're the kind of audiences where you get the curveball questions as well, where you're something you may not have thought about before. So it's it's definitely a really cool experience.
Yeah, I think opening yourself up to different questions is really, really valuable, isn't it? You know, it's not just us that can ask good questions.
100%. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I sometimes get the best questions from my family where you're like, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah.
Like a really simple concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Shilpa, what about your project?
Yeah, so my project is looking at the mechanisms that underlie both fatty liver disease, which is a disease, as the name suggests, where your liver accumulates fat, and insulin resistance, which is where your body doesn't effectively that your body's insulin doesn't effectively work, and that can lead to an increase in blood sugar levels. So those two diseases tend to coexist quite a lot in people. And so my research is trying to understand why they coexist, and looking at why one disease is related to the other. And so what I focus on is a group of people that develop one disease but not the other, and trying to figure out why. Basically, for example, why do some people develop fatty liver but they never become insulin resistant? And hopefully that's kind of the key to understanding why others do get both diseases. And that's kind of the main scientific question, but I also work with the industry sponsor in finding new gene targets for both of those diseases and characterizing what their function is and whether they're actually a good target to develop a drug for. And at the same time, I also work with my academic lab where they have access to a clinic where we can try to see if some of the research that's been done in this area in rodents and cells can actually be seen in humans. So it's not a clinical trial per se, it's more of a dietary or physiology kind of trial, but it helps us kind of understand if the research that we have up to now is actually something that's happening in humans.
Yeah, so you've been able to do some patient involvement in your research through that connection with the clinic, have you?
It's quite interesting. So I don't actually do the patient involvement. There are research nurses and doctors and people that are more equipped to deal with the kind of human aspect of that research. They collect samples, and then our whole lab kind of shares those samples in doing different types of research. So I'm actually a cell biologist. I'm mostly in the lab. But I've been able to use those samples, do similar experiments that I would do in cells, but also understand more about humans. And we have this huge database that tells us all these characteristics about the humans that those samples are from. So we can make all these connections and try to understand the biology without having to actually, be with the patients.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice for a basic scientist to have that experience.
Yeah, fantastic. I just wanted to come on to how the industry sponsor has kind of helped shape the kind of consideration of impact within your two projects. So, Shilpa, let's stay with you so that people can remember the project, and then Lorna, you can remind people what your project was when we come to you. So Shilpa, how's that worked, that consideration of impact and the liaison with the industrial sponsor?
Yeah, actually Lorna and I discussed this recently because we were not sure how to answer that question. It's interesting because with the fellowship, there isn't a clear expectation on what the impact of your projects are. It's kind of up to you on what you want to do with your project, where you want to take it. And as I kind of mentioned previously, you don't have to interact with the industry sponsor. They're there to help you and guide you, but it's really up to you to ask for what you want from the company. So if you have a interesting gene that you've been characterizing and you think it would maybe be something worthwhile to investigate from a pharmaceutical perspective, you have to pitch it to them. You have to make those contacts and find the right people for the next stage and basically convince them and see if they'd be willing to progress that part of your research. But they're not there to ask you whether there's something that could do with your project. And I think that made it really tough in terms of figuring out the impact, because I know I joined the fellowship thinking I'm going to do something great with pharma. right? And then you're doing the project. We did have COVID, so a little bit forgiven there. But when you don't know how industry works, it's very hard to figure out how to be impactful. Even though you have this great resource, you don't actually know what that resource is, in its completion. So it was a bit tough, I think, while I was in the middle of my fellowship, but at the end, I think I learned to speak up and really seek the impact, really think about what could be the potential impact and find the people that could help me get there. It's quite a long process, but that kind of thing can be done in any fellowship, in any job. You don't need an industry fellowship for that. The only benefit I would say is that you have the context there so that if you have an idea, you can email someone and someone will respond to you, which is great. But that was a hard part for the fellowship.
Yeah, so it's kind of ease the first contact, but in essence, the same challenges. In other words, trying to work out is this a value? Is this strategically important for that particular company? You've still got to get through those big hurdles.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think Lorna had a similar experience as well.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I mean, pretty much echo everything Shilpa said, really. And I think I think when you're, I very much went into the fellowship, like Shilpa said, like, I'm going to do this amazing thing with pharma and get all this big data and really, really be impactful. But I mean, what did I actually mean by that? What I still don't think I would have been able to answer you what I meant by impact. And I think if you'd asked me a few years ago, it would have just been like, oh yeah, the classic impact of publishing papers, presenting at conferences. But I think we all know that that's not everything about impact. But I think in reality, that is the key outcomes that come out of these type of fellowships. But yeah, working with industry has been, it's been I think it just takes time to build the relationship. Like any good collaboration, you can have some interactions that you're like, oh my, great, that was great energy, we can really move this forward. And then others where it's just, you just know it's trying to get blood out of the stone. So yes, it's definitely kind of gone in waves of, feeling like we're moving forward with something and then meeting another stumbling block with the industry partner. But I think in terms of how consideration is built into the project, I mean, Shilpa and I were talking about this earlier, that I don't think we really know how it is built into it, really. And again, I think that's just to going back to the question of like, what does impact mean? And it is quite wide ranging, so it's hard to know how it can be built in, and maybe it just develops as the fellowship goes on. And you can see that with all the different fellows that have been through the program. I mean, everyone's gone into such different roles, and that's kind of shows how everyone's experience was different, and their impact throughout their fellowship will have been different. But I think at the start it's not like this is the expectation of what your impact is going to be. Don't know if that really answers the question, but
no, that's great. Just that final bit, I think I did a bit of nosing about on the university's Oxford's website about that fellowship. So the past fellows get together regularly, do they?
Yeah. So I think, Shilpa and I have had such a good time on our fellowship program, and I think we're sometimes a little bit biased when we talk about it, because it is a really nice community, and I think there's over 30 fellows that have been through it now. So every year we have like a symposium in Oxford, and I think whoever can comes, kind of the past fellows, and then every year we have a meeting somewhere else with all the current fellows. So at one time there can be, I think, up to 12 fellows on the program at once, and we'll meet as a cohort maybe a few times a year, and present our research and catch up. So it's this nice extra community that away from just your immediate lab group and your immediate department, which is really nice to be part of.
I was just going to say that's definitely one of the benefits of the fellowship program. I know both Lorna and I moved from Australia and New Zealand. So coming here and having this automatic cohort of people who are just as confused as you are, was really, really useful, especially during COVID when we hadn't had any network at all. We had only been around for a couple of months before COVID hit, and we had to go into lockdown, and having that network of people that are going through the same thing as us in terms of trying to balance this industry academia partnership was super, super useful.
Yeah, brilliant. It sounds like, as you've said, I'm just reflecting your own words, it's been a fantastic 3 years. Yeah.
It has, and now we're at the end of it, but it definitely, it's been a tough 3 years. I think I might have aged about 10 years in the process. So look back at my university card from 3 years ago and I'm like, wow, okay, looked a bit more younger then. I'm sure I look 3 years older.
Well, maybe it's because of the amount of work you've taken on, not least of which has been starting to run your own podcast, which I've really enjoyed, and I've loved one aspect of it actually really loads more than that's really stood out for me, which I'm going to steal, which is your 60-second unfiltered tips section. I think that's fabulous, and I don't believe that there are any new ideas, so I'm just going to innovate by iterating yours. So I'm going to give you 30, about 60 seconds just to kind of pitch your podcast at our listeners here on Research Culture Uncovered. So who wants to? Are you going to do it as a double act, that 60 seconds, or are you going to do it over to you?
Let's do a double act just to fill the time.
Right. I'm going to get my stopwatch up, which you can't see. Even more challenging.
Shilpa, are you or I going first in our double act?
You go first.
Okay.
Okay. Timer is running.
Okay, so our podcast is called Research Co-Culture, which is all about exploring the value of different sectors working together. So we're talking academia, pharma, private sectors, NGOs, whatever you can think of, and ultimately how we can better co-culture research. Over to you, Shilpa.
And the idea behind the name Research Co-Culture comes from a lab technique, which is called co-culture, and that's when you have more than one cell type in one environment and you investigate how they communicate together, which is a great little pun for what the podcast is about, which is all about looking at how different sectors can communicate more fluidly and how we can all be in the same environment together.
Yeah, so check it out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and please, happy co-culturing.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was 60 seconds.
Brilliant. I always love it when presenters, I used to do a lot of presentation skills training, and top marks for people who come in under the time.
Yeah.
So well done. You had another 7 seconds, but I think you smashed that. So the kind of other thing I was is just fire some questions at you, and I just want them to be, about that research culture environment. So we'll do it fast fire, just like you do. So we'll do it in the same order of who responds. So because Shilpa's top of my screen and Lorna bottom, we'll go in that order. But you both get a chance to hit the question. Okay. Cool. So, favorite aspect of research culture?
Ooh, okay. I guess my favorite aspect is it biased to say the podcast? It's basically just the discussion that comes from it and asking for better. I really love research culture now because it's like a buzzword that everyone knows about and everyone's asking for it. And I really just like how it brings collaboration, fluidity between sectors, just a bit more open-mindedness. That's my favorite part about what it could be.
Brilliant. Lorna?
I think it's the people for me. The people that Shilpa and I have met through doing the podcast, and now the people that we're meeting from the podcast, like yourself, Jed, and all of your team. I think you meet amazing people who really want change and are very open-minded, they're curious. So I think research culture is just amazing that having this term now, meaning that we can talk more and more about it and really get momentum going to create a better culture.
Brilliant. Next question. So if I gave you each a magic wand, what aspect of research culture would you fix, Shilpa?
I mean, the thing that would probably need to change is just getting rid of all the toxicity. I mean, that is the one thing that's causing so many people to change their careers, change their dreams because of the toxicity in research culture. But actually, I just think being more open-minded about what people want to do and embracing all the skills, I think that is the one thing I would change. It sounds easy, but it's the hardest thing to change, right? Behavior change, mindset change. That's what I would do.
And Lorna?
I think mine's nothing new, but it's definitely stopping the publish or perish nature that we work in. And I think changing what Shilpa's just said of people being more open-minded to people's skills and the way that we reward funding could really go some way to reducing that insane toxic publish or perish nature that we currently operate in, which is just, it's not keeping up with the times either. Like, knowledge decimation is not via a PDF online now,
No.
and we all know these editorial companies make a lot of money, so that would be my one huge thing I would love to change.
Lots of effort there on the the publishing business model, aren't there?
Needs a wand. Needs a magic wand.
Yeah. Okay, I've given you time to think about the next one, although I haven't asked it, so that you'd be thinking about a blank canvas here. But you're both a lot younger than me, and I'm kind of thinking, my career's going to be up shortly. So if I was to put you in my situation, at the end of your career, what do you hope to be known for? Shilpa.
Oh my God. I hate going first. What would I like to be known for? I think I'd like to be known for changing how research works. In terms of, I'd love to be in a position where I was responsible for embracing the different sectors and creating more kind of collaboration points, that there is no such thing as being in one sector or another. Everyone's working together. And I would love to be part of that change. I'd love to be known for that.
Fantastic. Yeah, that fluidity would be lovely to see. Lorna, give you a few more seconds to think.
Yeah, I know. I think Shilpa's basically taken my answer. But I think, I guess to build onto Shilpa's, I think just, being known for someone who's kind of ourselves moved around into different sectors, and through all of that experience is able to create a system where we are able to move between the different sectors. I think in all different careers now, people are not staying in their job for as long as they used to. And it should be the same in academia. It should be more fluid. I think just having some impact, that I've been able to, really open up people's minds and make it a lot easier for people to move around, and it just be a lighter environment. I mean, sorry, this is going way past your 60 seconds, but I think one of the other things that Shilpa and I have both experienced in working with industry is that when you collaborate with people there, it's a much lighter environment. People don't seem to have the weight of the world on their shoulders. Whereas I think in the university and academia, people are really open to collaborate, but they're so busy and they've got so many competing interests that there's always this kind of, like I say, what feels like the weight on their shoulders. Whereas in industry, I think because there's slightly more defined roles, it's a team, it's just a lighter environment, and it's just nicer. So I think just helping create some environment that's a bit nicer would be also good. Yeah,
that's brilliant. So listeners, we're running out of time here, and I've really enjoyed talking to Lorna and Shilpa about their fellowship schemes. It sounds like really lovely way that it's set up, really lovely way that it operates, and really lovely that it requires the fellow to be really proactive in how they shape the fellowship and make the most out of it. That's an ideal situation to move on from your PhD research, where you do have that freedom and still have that freedom. So it's fascinating to hear about that. And it's also been fascinating to hear about their podcast, Research Co-Culture. links to it in the show notes. If you haven't found it already by other mechanisms, you can find it by a direct link there. So favorite episode, final one. I didn't tell you about that one.
Ooh, I automatically know. It's the one with Anne Clark. If you haven't listened to it, it was for the International Day of Women in STEM, I think. And Anne Clark is someone that works in our institute, and she's been there forever. And it was about her lifetime as a scientist, and all the challenges, but also all the like triumphs that she's been through. She's also just hilarious, and takes nothing. She will just go on and get things done, and we loved it. It was unexpected, it was new stories, and it was just a blast.
Brilliant. Lorna, do you have a different favorite?
I do, yes. I did enjoy Anne's, but another one that I enjoyed was actually from another professor in our department called Leanne Hodson, which is all about fostering a positive research environment. Leanne is actually Shilpa's PI, but she's become a really amazing mentor to me. And she, her whole episode focused on how we can create a more positive lab environment and create a team culture. So if you want to recommend anyone checking out the episode if they want some tips on leading your lab, because she's just an amazing person.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for accepting the invitation to be interviewed on Research Culture Uncovered, and say bye-bye to our listeners.
Bye, and thank you so much for having us.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, and we look forward to having you on our podcast. So we'll promote that another time.
Thanks for listening to the Research Culture Uncovered podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss out on our brand new episodes. And if you're enjoying the discussions, give us some love by dropping a 5-star rating and written review, as it helps other research culturists find us. And please share with a friend and show them how to subscribe. Thanks for listening, and here's to you and your research culture.